Hey, this is Monday/Tuesday, October 12th and 13th, the advanced class, as we're going to get into talking about dead people, and then irony, and then we're going to talk about haunted cats and all kinds of fun stuff like that. Those of you who are on the home version, I just handed out passes to kids a second ago because it's the new 9 weeks. You can cash in the old pass if you want to. And I also took photographs of kids, but if you're not here for the live version, you missed all the fun awkwardness. That's the joy of you not being here. But don't worry, because we're going to flippy flop and I'm going to take the awkward pictures of the other kids. If you're a completely virtual kid, then someday I'll get a picture of you. I'll just creepily stay outside your house, wait till you leave one day, and then take a picture and just run away screaming. Like, what just happened? Like, there's a creepy old man with a camera. It's okay. I've only been arrested 4 times. And well, there's that. Goodness gracious, we'll make it 5. Then the B.2, I don't believe anyone in here owes me homework. Just, I think I lost call it. Hang on 1 second. If I could yell at children. Not for you guys. So just my 4th period has a slacker child. You guys are slacker child free at the moment. And here's what we have coming up for this week. I do have new homework for you, and I do have new quiz for you, and I do have new stories for you. Yay, says the children. I feel the same. Now, again, the homework is going to be the IXL, because right now that's the only homework I'm giving you, because it seems to make life a little bit easier because you get a chance to test out of it. For those of you who pay attention and understand how my quizzes work. Your new one is called F.1, and officially it will get assigned tomorrow, and it's going to connect with the quiz coming up on Thursday/Friday, which is going to be our next story quiz, which is going to cover irony that we're going to get into, and it's going to cover all of this stuff that we're going to get into, and then the story you're going to have to read about a boy named Charles, who's a little kid who's full of lies, and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So if you do well on quiz, you don't have to worry about the IXL homework. Oh, my goal is to not give you homework over break. For some of you, your goal is to have homework over break. So we're going to have a competition to see who wins. I'm going to give you all the stuff ahead of time, and it's up to you to be the slacker child that waits until break and then gets all complaining and yelling. So one, the IXL homework is not due until the Tuesday after break, which should hopefully give you a lot of time. Plus, I'm giving it to you Wednesday, so I'm giving you like 2 weeks to get it done. And then the quiz, you should have time to get done in class on Thursday and Friday. That's my goal. And that's not going to be due until Saturday. So in theory, I'm not giving you homework. If you have work over break, that's your own slackerism. Yeah. Oh, so now let's go into this part. Those of you at home, the 4 of you who are paying attention to me, you can unmute to yell at me if you would like, and that is fine for those of you who want to play the yelling at Mr. BroviCast game. Ava, you get to play the yelling at Mr. BroviCast game in real life for the first time. Dreams come true, Ava. And so for the rest of you, you've been here for the yelling at Mr. BroviCast game as we get to go through the beginning stuff. So let's apply this to our story coming up in a moment. Short version of exposition is nicely done. Of rising action, climax, way to actually put emotion into it, bringing us all joy. Falling action,
OMG explained.
No, that's right. And then the resolution,
Boring ending stuff.
that's where the resolution comes in. Nicely done. Then covered there. Ooh. And then with our story, The Landlady, we have more talking to do about dead people. I'll need help. All right, let's see. We have. So to do, since it's been a few days since we dealt with stories, since you guys like slept over the weekend, probably like at least once. Who was main character in story?
Billy.
Billy. Well, where was story taking place?
Someplace near London.
There. It was a town near London. It was called Bath. You know that part. I would have also taken England. I would have also taken Landlady's house. Any number of answers that you guys did not yell out. You guys were yelling out random other weird things. And then when he gets to this town, what is he looking for?
Bell and Dragon.
Why?
A house.
He's looking for a place to sleep, which happened to be Bell and Dragon. What does he find instead? The bed and breakfast. Who's staying at, or who runs bed and breakfast? There you go. And then what is it she wants to make sure he drinks? Well, I was going to go with the tea, but apparently you guys really focus on the poisony bits. Because I was going to go, what is inside the tea? And apparently you guys jumped right to the deathy bits. All right. So now, and what is the definition of foreshadowing? Good, yeah, by the way, sometimes that's why you have the notes thing right in front of you. You know, the one that Ava has completely blank. So that's the one that you're going to look at to try and help you, as opposed to just yelling out random things. It's a duck! No, look at your actual notes to try and help you. So, as we get into it, Billy's tea tasting of bitter almonds. We covered that one right before you guys left the forest, watch you guys all kinds of excitement. That foreshadows, because what does bitter almonds come from? Cyanide. And so that was, and so if he's drinking cyanide, what's going to happen to him? And if he dies in her house, what's going to happen to him? Again,
Taxidermy.
put a little too much fun into all of that. You're like, you're gonna die! You're gonna get stuffed! So again, one of us might need this. We find out the dog and parrot are taxidermied, which is the whole stuffing of the animals thing. And then on that one, who does the stuffing of the dog and the parrot? And so that's where we find out that apparently she has the skills of being able to do this all on her own and not needing to hire it out, because by the way, that'd be real awkward. If she killed him, then I had to hire somebody to come in and do it. And that makes it a real awkward situation. So that's why she had to teach herself the skill. Then she's aware, so she talked about the fact there's no blemishes on the entire body and how good the teeth was and how the skin was just like a baby. How does she know all of this?
She's a witch.
Not because she's a witch. Stop channeling your inner Brady. So on this one, so to stuff them, she has to actually see them. And so that's how she knows the skin and the teeth, because if not, you have to replace them and stuff. So that's why, because she did the taxidermying, when she starts talking about the skin and the body, is because she's seen the skin and the body from doing the previous taxidermying of the other two. She smells like a hospital. At one point, when she's sitting next to him, they're having a conversation. He was like, it wasn't an unpleasant smell, but she smelled like pickled eggs and a hospital and stuff like that. There's a reason why she has this weird scent. Amanda? It is not what dead people smell like, but I like how confident you are, like you've been around them a lot. That did make me kind of smile. Tyler? No, good guess also, but you didn't come across quite as confident on that one. So it's not bad.
She poured her potion on.
Evan? Getting closer. Yeah, it's the chemicals. When you do the taxidermying, you don't, when you taxidermy, you don't like just pull the guts out, fling them to the side, and just go, you're done. There's like actual like chemicals and stuff like that. So apparently she's been using those chemicals to get them prepared. And why is she getting those chemicals prepared? Yeah, nicely done. Because apparently she's all ready for him to come in, and that's why she starts smelling like the chemicals, because apparently she's already started getting them out. Jay?
If she's not a witch, how would she know that he was already talking?
I don't know. Apparently she's a witch. Why does she want Billy to drink tea? Nicely done. And because apparently it's delicious. Then why does he recognize the Mulholland and Temple people?
They got their rules.
And so that's what we kept saying. I know both names in the paper, but I like two different things. And what is it they both had done? Disappear. If it had been in the paper that they died, that implies they found the bodies, and they can't find the bodies because where do we know the bodies are? Exactly. So if they had not died, they had just disappeared like years apart. And apparently now there's going to be a new story coming out talking about this Billy Weaver character. And who knows, years from now, a new person shows up. He'll be looking at the book going, Billy Weaver? I know that name. And she'll go, Billy Weaver? He's on the 3rd floor. I'm like, no. And it just continues. That is true. So you know how it works. When she keeps saying, you've signed the book, the official ledger book, she makes it sound like it's for tax purposes. It's not for tax purposes. She's not planning on paying taxes on any of this, but she has a whole different reason for wanting him to sign the book. Tyler?
show that like if they die and please come to the house, or show them the book showing that they have
Not bad, but I've got a feeling she probably wouldn't even show because she would have no connection to these names at all. But you're on the right track, but you're not thinking nefarious enough on meaning evilly. Amanda? Good try again, but even simpler than that. Ava?
It's like a prize. Like killers always want like a prize for something.
One, you seem really excited about that. Killers take prizes! Again, you're closer, but remember, she's an older person. And so that's what plays into this one. Harvey? Yeah, old and forgetful people. Because she keeps talking about the fact she's like, I keep forgetting Gregory's name and that what's the because if the name's not written down, can't she go ask him later what his name is? I mean, you can, but he'll just sit there and stare at you. Like, why aren't you? Oh, yeah, you did. And so it doesn't work as well. So that's why she has to have the name written down so she can come down and check on it. Yes, I appreciate the fact that you guys are like, Mr. Broviak, she's not old. That can't be the reason. I appreciate that. Tyler? I don't know myself. I'm assuming you died. I think it makes your heart just stop beating, but
Yeah,
again,
and
I'm
then
not
it's
right.
undetectable in the system after you die.
Right. Apparently Ava knows.
I
More
watched her in the file.
random clues to help you. When he arrives, there's no other hats or coats in the closet, which of course is supposed to indicate what? But is there people there? And that becomes all part of it when he first shows up and there's no things there, there's no hats. You're like, oh, the place is empty. But then what does she say later on in the story? After he drinks the tea, that's when she's like, oh no, they're upstairs right now. You're like, wait a minute, Mr. Broviak, this story makes no sense. Look at me. Flippy. Never covered that one then. Ooh, she makes the room really cheap when he first shows up, and she's like, it's 5 and 6 pence. We found out it was like $1 or something like that. Why does she make it so cheap? That she's fishing. She's trying to make sure that he stays, so she wants to make it as cheap as possible so he doesn't go anywhere else. Plus, once he's dead, what happens to all of his money? Yeah, so she gets all of his money no matter what. She'd be like, it's a shiny nickel. And then he would stay there, and she's like, no, I got all your money. And so she can make it whatever price she wants because she's going to be taking it from him. Why does she still
Because
money?
she stopped him.
Well, because he's dead, so his money is just sitting in his pocket. So I'm assuming when she stuffs him, she takes the money, as opposed to someone throwing it out the window.
Credit cards and stuff.
Libby, I don't know. They might usually, but again, I don't think she really shows it to the police. I don't think she's an actual registered. All right. I mean, you think he'd probably pay attention to that, but he might. I mean, they're boys. They're not real smart, so there's a chance. When he first sees the dog and parrot, he says, this is a good sign. Why did he think it was a good sign? She does know how to take care of things, just not the kind of take care of it he wants. Let's skip that one. I think that all goes to her being a witch. All right, so now let's go to things to help you out again, kids at home. We have the characters. We only have two characters being done. And then a description of the character that would not fit anybody else. And not being a globetrotter one, where you're like, boy and girl, right into the throat. So give me some kind of description that makes me a bit slightly more proud of you. Mina? I couldn't hear you with your globetrotter. What?
No, it's
Can you bring that letter back to me? No. So which one is that implying or going to? I put 17-year-old boy on trip. Mina put I'm a globetrotter. Amanda? I mean, he was, but he found a better option. Come on, Tiger. Owen? Slightly better. I'll give you that one. Jay.
Murder.
Eli.
Murder called like.
Oh, dirt lady. Thank you. All right. Well, I put creepy lady in stuff things. So that's fine. Ooh, for the win in our story, what time of day? What time of year? Nicely done. Then I put actual work. For the where?
London.
Nice. Close. Not London, but town near London, which was Bath. And then in Bath, where does it take place? There you go. And then I also put, I think, street on there. And ooh. So now, hang on, I get to pick on random kids at home because it's been a while. I haven't heard the voice for Joey, who just yelled at me. Layla, we're going to pick on you first, Layla. Good morning to you, Layla. Let's go with, what is our, Kayla Langley? Layla, don't you squint at me. What's that, Layla? You want me to yell at you because you haven't unmuted yourself yet, which makes me have to be mean to you. Why would, oh, there you go, Layla. I was confused about why you make me yell at a child. Layla, what is our definition of internal conflict?
The problem going inside a character.
You don't
Wait, hold on.
Layla. Yes, use the notes, Layla.
The conflict inside your mind/self.
Nicely done. You're not. Don't you put your finger on that mute button, Layla. Layla, get your finger off that mute button. Shrug your shoulders. Hi, Layla. Layla, what word do we have to use? Because Grace is getting ready to tell me what our internal conflict is, and the more we can help him because he's distracted by witches. What word does Grace have to use?
Anything but not.
Correct. We cannot use not. Did you write down how is it supposed to be written? Because every internal conflict is written the same way.
Oh, this or that.
Nicely done, Layla. Now you can go back to hiding. Grace, so we have Billy. What internal conflict did Billy have to make in story? Works for me. That's enough. Stay at bed and breakfast. Or, oh, look at that. Go. And Landlady, Shaver. Thank you for volunteering, dear. That was so nice of you, Shaver. So on this one, we have Landlady, and she also has a number of decisions to make. Pick one of them.
Spare poor Billy's life or perform taxidermy on him.
Nicely done, Shaver. I accept. I went for choose Billy or wait for someone else. It goes along the same lines from there. And then Chandler. Morning to you too, dear. Let's go with Chandler. What is our definition of external conflict?
A battle between two physical things in a story.
And how are we supposed to write it? Yeah, you throw a hand at that boy. And how are we supposed to write it?
This versus that.
Nice, but now you can go back to hiding. Evan, what is our external conflict in story? What two things are fighting each other? And why is that important? With confidence, Evan. Come at me, bro. Nicely done. I would agree. Billy versus Landlady, because I would assume someone trying to kill you would probably qualify. Amanda. Uh-huh.
That makes it more further to the point that she is a witch.
I'm not saying there's not evidence pointing to a witch, except for the whole, witches don't exist thing. But other than that, I'm sorry, I did not mean to step on your toes there, Grace. You came right at me. I will try to step away. So, again, I do not want to know what you guys do on the weekends. So now, home children and living children, for our point of view, you're going to tell me either take a look at story, is it first person or third person? And then, to be nice, I'm going to hook up young Abel and copy of the story. There you go. All right. So now holding up a one. Home children, what is wrong with you? Where's your 1 and your 3? Holding up, is it first person or is it making me yell at you like you're sitting in Non-home. All right. So, all right, hang on before you get too excited. I agree. Third person. Now, we're going to do a new one. Is it omniscient or limited? So, omniscient, limited. And then, so most of you guys seem to be saying it is limited, which means limited following what character? So you're saying Billy is in every scene. So if I can put up on the screen that it's omniscient because there's a scene that Billy's not in, I can charge each one of you a B point for not knowing it. Then that means you're going to show me what scene he's not in. By the way, this applies to you home children also. We are a team and we are going to sink or swim together. So I'm saying, have you considered giving up? Did you look in brain? I'm pretty sure he has considered such things. And witches do exits. I agree, Joey. Witches should exit. Oh wait, my English good. Never mind. I was harassing a poor child. And then, so apparently you guys are not finding anything? Probably because it's limited. My goal was to see how many of you guys would back down and then try to go, it's omniscient, because I'm trying to challenge you to see how strong and brave you are. The answer for many of you was, I'm not brave at all, Mr. Broviak, I'm a scaredy pants. And so I completely understand. But that's where I try to see if I can get you guys to back down. Ooh, I picked up on it. For the theme, what is it you think we should learn in story? Andrew? So you're saying, listen to the landlady.
No, that was brainwashing. Russian spies got me.
Yeah. We'll come back to you then. They got you good. Tyler? Ooh, how so? Uh-huh. All right. Tyler said always take a closer look at things and not just accept them. I could dig. Ava?
Never go to a random person's house and stay there.
Well, yes, but we have these things called, I mean, technically a hotel, you're going to random places first. There's Airbnbs. People go there all the time. When people go to Florida, you stay in somebody's house. You can like rent out a house. It's the same thing there. Jagger, don't trust anyone. Seems a little on the negative side, but I can see that. Eli, that is a theme. Not sure it applies as much. It's Sophie. And how does that apply?
Because he didn't listen to the dude into one place.
It was a train station.
And he said, go to here. And he said, fine, I'll go to there. And then he decided to be sassy child and actually going to go back to his place.
Well, he got a better deal.
That's what I was going.
He actually got a better deal. Definitely.
I mean, I went for that, but I think along the same lines. Nicely done. You guys are all angry and yelling at me. So now, speaking of trusting guts, we're going to do the exposition, rising action stuff, and we're going to see how well you can figure out this one. Home children, this is going to apply to you guys too. You're going to be showing me finger numbers, and you're going to figure out which, wait, every story starts with what? Good job, Tyler. And so you're going to figure out which finger number goes to exposition. I'll read them to you, and then we'll go from there. Only if you really hate yourself. Billy begins to think he recognizes the names in the book, but the landlady keeps distracting him as he drinks the tea. We now know landlady likes to stuff things, which allows us to use imagination and figure out what will happen to Billy. Billy Weaver is a 17-year-old on his own in a new town looking for a place to stay. The landlady explains the names and how it is all normal. The landlady explains her place and her rules and has Billy sign the book, but some things seem odd about it all. All right, your exposition number and all right, I would agree. Good job. So his exposition is boring beginning stuff. There's not a whole lot of boring stuff in this one, but at the very beginning where he's walking around, I would agree. After exposition, what comes next? All right, hold up your number for the one you think is rising action. as I'm checking home. I have a small handful of brave children. And all right, you're confusing me, Erica. I couldn't tell what you are right now. And then I would agree with that one. Nicely done. All right, after rising action is? All right, so I'm giving, wow, some of you are faster than others. Giving you people, uh-oh, I'm seeing disagreements already. Uh-oh, I'm seeing 3 different numbers. Not everyone's in agreement. Maybe we should gamble some B points on this and find out in a second. And you know it should not be 3 and 5. Did you just give up? Did you just channel your inner Brady? And then she was just giving up for a second. I was just harassing at the same time. And let's see. So the climax, the most exciting part of it, I would assume, let's see, that you guys who went for him recognizing those names in the book would be your big climax. That's when he's like, all of a sudden, wait a minute, I know who those names are, and he gets all excited about it. And then after climax is, all right, now you only have 2 to choose from, so hopefully it's a little bit easier. And that's not a number.
I'm reading it.
Okay. I thought you were just like fight the power. Flipping 10. I would go with this one. If you went, her explaining how the names are all normal, because you have that climatic moment where he was like, I know the names. And she's like, no, boo boo, it's easy stuff. I would agree. And then you have very end of the story, which is, there you go. Words and learning is hard. It's never gonna catch. I don't know. Does it make you mad? Don't feed the angry troll. Well done, you guys. All right. I don't know why one blue and one black and the other ones are red. All things to mess with Flippy to bring.
There's so many things wrong with this.
I bet it wouldn't be like that if you'd actually showed me a number. Sass. Nah. We're going to take a 3-minute break before we go into our next thing. For the kids here to stand up and move around. If you're a home child and you want to stand up and move around for a second, you may. If you go into the corner and face the wall, yes. Take a sharpened pencil and you want to stab it right into her kidney. There you go. If they play with your hair, not just randomly, you can't just hunt them like a rabbit. Correct. Why? If it was bad, were you going to hide it?
But it's okay because it's only for regular teachers.
So you're going to overthrow all the other teachers that just leave me there? While my teacher brethren are burning on a pile? The proper thing is, I will attempt to throat punch you. You can't just state this thing like it's a guaranteed thing to happen.
Well, you can attempt to. I'm this big. You're this big. So you're that's what smart is.
Oh, you got me snippy.
I love this.
Yes, I'm not disagreeing on that one.
Yeah.
Did the science thing kill you?
January, which it's not. It's not. It's 1,000 to 3,000.
That's a lot of points. Is that the inquiry project thing?
Yes, it is.
My daughter forgot that.
I'm so sorry. I like putting all my problems.
You're fine. You're not going to bother me. Not the first kid who's
The
complaining at me.
1,000 to 3,000 point project in science.
Yes.
Nelly, same person
I
that
packed
you
a lot
have.
of learning in. Baby's scared.
You like my socks? They have pickles on them.
How would I not? They've got pickles on them.
Yes, in the project.
Mina, are you low-key trying to sneak behind me? Or just trying to get yourself on the
It
screen?
sounds like a long time. They have to do like 50,000 tests.
Someday, but I need to sharpen it.
Aww.
All right, wander back to your homes. It's one of your grades. There's BroviCast on Monday.
Where am I?
You're right there. Found you. All right. Good shit. Apparently, we really embraced that 3-minute break. Oh, Chandler, your brother looks different today. All right. There. Throwing shade at Chase. And... So, on the notes thing, we are now filling in last bit of notes thing here. So for those of you at home, we're going to go to notes thing here, and we're going to go down to bottomy bit. There's one last thing. Good job, Joey. That's the one. Last bit on there that says irony, and that's what we're getting ready to take a look at here. Let's go down to irony. Now, the drawback is, yes, I know you don't have a whole lot of room on there. Well, most of you don't have a whole lot of room on there. Some of you have a whole lot of room on there, but that's a whole different thing. So you're not writing the whole screen. You're just doing part 1. That is definition. And I'm going to go through and explain to you what irony is. And then we're going to do some irony examples. And then we're going to do a bunch of irony work. And then we're going to try and make you irony stronger. Griffin. Depends on the kid. Some kids I trust slightly more than others. Sorry. Kids at home, sorry, I got choked up, need water. Nope, still alive. Dreams have not come true yet. Jay.
Do you have a chart of like how long you can stay depending on the speed?
I would, but it's all inside my head. Yeah. At least 15 seconds. All right. So for irony, what is going to be, and unfortunately, I don't have like the super short version like we did for the other parts that went on there. With irony, there is no super shorty bit. So what irony is going to be is when you are saying one thing, but you mean a different thing. It's going to be the difference between the literal definition and the figurative definition. Basically, no matter what we write down for irony, is probably going to confuse you. Irony is one of those things that is really hard to define, but then once you start knowing what it is, it becomes much easier to recognize. Irony is going to be one of the toughest things that I teach you throughout the year. For some of you, we're going to get through this irony thing, and you're going to go, Mr. Broviak, I have no idea what that was. For others of you, you'll go, Mr. Broviak, I nailed it. Here's an example. Irony is where I use something called verbal irony with you guys all the time, where I say one thing, but what I mean is the opposite of that. You like lying? No. But when you do something boneheaded in class, and I go, good job, genius, real proud of you. I'm saying one thing, but I mean the opposite of it. You know what that's called? Sarcasm is a form of irony. If you understand sarcasm, you have a good chance of understanding irony. If teachers are sarcastic with you and it goes over your head all the time, then you're probably going to struggle with irony quite a bit because they kind of go hand in hand. Sarcasm is great when used well, but sarcasm does not work well on kids who don't understand it. When I go, oh, did you not bring anything to class today and you're just sitting there staring at me? Good job, proud of you. Some kids go, you are? I'm never bringing things to class. This is the first time anyone's been proud of me. And I'm like, oh, boo-boo, what's wrong with you? And so you have to understand how the whole making fun of you thing works. So that's what irony is. Yes, Erica, you seem to get all excited about me being sarcastic. Pretty much anytime you see me sass children in my room, I'm doing it for educational purposes. This whole year, it's been training you for irony. So here, let's walk you guys through this part. You don't have to write this down. This is just practicing this to try and get you there. As an example, what is it that you know a fireman does? There you go. Now, what would be ironic if they are always known for putting out fires? Let's go, yeah. So this one I put, no, wrong direction, come back. There you go. If we find out that a guy spontaneously burst into flames on the street, and you're like, that guy just catch on fire? Like, yeah. You find out he was a fireman, that would be ironic because all they do is put out fires. So if a person randomly caught on fire, That's the exact opposite of what you would expect. How about you guys what a dare officer does? There you go. They're the ones that say, don't do drugs, drugs are bad. If we find out there was a police officer who gets in big trouble because he got a DUI, drunk driving charge, that would be ironic, because if it was a dare officer, they spend all of their time saying kids should not drink, and then they get arrested for drinking. That would be the opposite of what you expect. Tyler? Don't do drugs. I dare you to not do drugs? I have no idea. Yes.
Wait, driving under the influence involves drugs.
It involves drugs.
Yeah.
That's why it'd be ironic.
You just said it was alcohol though.
Well, it can be either one.
Really exciting.
They're, as far as the police are concerned, they consider under the influence can be either drugs or alcohol. Only there was a machine. We could look it up. Anyway, what is it the dentist does? So if you were to see a guy who had a giant mouth of Jangletooth, and you find out that Jangletooth guy was a dentist, that would be ironic. If he smiles like, oh God, what's wrong with that guy's mouth? You're like, well, that's our dentist. You're like, well, you need to go somewhere. Because that would be ironic, because it's the last thing that you would expect. Now, on the last one, not this English teacher, but a normal English teacher, you expect them to teach English, which consists of words. But then if you find out that a teacher was like misspelling their name when they were applying for something, you're like, what were they applying for? You're like, English teacher job. And you're like, huh, that's ironic. Because the one thing you think that that teacher would be good at is spelling things. Just like social studies. What does social studies consist of you learning?
History.
There you go. And if there is a teacher who had a contest and they could not find North America on a map, and you find out it was the social studies teacher, that would qualify as ironic. It's the opposite of what you would expect. Gymnasts tripping on the awards platform. Now, given, I know gymnasts can trip all the time, but a gymnast is supposed to be good at being all ninja-like. And so if all of a sudden you have the top ninja person and they step up onto an awards platform, they're like, I got that! And they go right down onto their face. You're like, oh, I would definitely expect them to do it. Now, if it was like a band competition, they might fall because maybe they're not as ninja-y. Hopefully they get you on. Because they're not band people. So many people do, but he's not a gymnast. Amanda. There you go. I don't know. All right. So now we're going to go through more examples to help you guys out. So the Made in China sticker looks something like this. What I have are a whole bunch of examples I've picked up over years of teaching. So this goes back to when my daughters were wee chillins, and I first saw it in person. I thought about this being ironic because it was at a 4th of July parade, and I was there with my daughters, and they were handing out things to the kids. And so as they were at the parade, they were handing out things to the kids. One of the things they handed out had a little Made in China sticker on it. What would it be they handed out? And so it was an American flag that had the Made in China sticker on it. That's what makes it ironic, because you would think American flag should be made in, and hence the sticker. Now, last year I had a kid ask me, Mr. BroviCast, where do they make the stickers? And I'm like, well, obviously they make the, actually not obviously. Where would you assume they make the stickers?
Not in China.
And so, no, you assume they make them in China until we make it part of an irony unit. And then as soon as we make it part of an irony unit, now you're all like, Mexico? And so I have no idea where they make the stickers. It was just a question that a kid brought up. And I'm like, that's a good question. If we find out that the CEO or head of Chevrolet would be ironic, nicely done. See how you're figuring it out? If they drive something that is not a Chevrolet, that would qualify as ironic. The opposite of what you would expect them to be doing. Griffin, Chevy, car, truck. If we find out the employees of Microsoft, there you go. So anytime that they're, or instead of playing on an Xbox, they play a There you go. That would qualify as ironic, the opposite of what you would expect them to be doing. So I've had two students, one by the name of Joy and one by the name of Delight. If their name is Joy or Delight, what kind of people would you expect them to be? Now, the problem is, I'm doing this during an irony unit, and some of you guys are starting to figure out irony, so you probably see where this story is going. First period, I had Joy, and she sat right over yonder, and Joy was as ironic as it could be with her name. She was the kid that would just sit there and just stare at me and be grumpy the entire time. Apparently, if you name a child Joy, it takes all the joy out of their life. And so we got to this part where I was going through and explaining how irony works to the kids in class, and I had a boy that was sitting on this side of the room who raised his hand and goes, Mr. Broviak, I think I understand irony. I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, can names be ironic? And I was like, I guess so. And then he just pointed over and then joy is ironic. And the whole class turned to look at her, and she's like, and like just stared at us. And I'm like, yes, you do understand irony, but let's not attack joy. But so that did make me smile on the inside. So 2 years later, I had a girl in third period whose name was Delight. Delight was our school bully. She was equal opportunity. She would punch both boys and girls. She did not really care if you got to do her way. And so she was just apparently, again, if you name your child Delight, I don't know if you're just cursing them or what it is, but she was not a delight to have in class. She was kind of a thug. So again, teaching irony, I teach the whole story about joy. I was like, this is 2 years ago. I had a kid named Joy. While I'm telling that one, I keep seeing the kids in class like side-eyeing and looking over at Delight the entire time in class, but no one's brave enough to say anything because they only get punched. So I say it instead. And I'm like, so Joy was an example of irony, like Delight. And I pointed at Delight, and she just stared at me like she wanted to kill me. And the whole class was like, oh my God. And I'm like, and so sometimes your name can be ironic. I found it funny. She looked like she wanted to kill me, which only made me laugh more. We have a day called Labor Day, which is a holiday. How do we celebrate Labor Day? You have time off or you don't have to go do anything. What does labor mean? So we celebrate National Work Day by doing nothing. So that's how we have a day dedicated to work, and you say, oh, that's nothing at all. You're like, that's how we celebrate it. And so it's by the way, as I had a kid ask me before, labor, the kid thought it was connected to giving birth. He was like, when my mom gave birth, she said she was in labor for 30 hours. Is that what Labor Day is? And I was like, no, boo-boo. He was like, what? Because apparently having a baby is a lot of work, and so they call it labor. If you disagree, you should definitely go tell your mother that, and then let me know how that conversation goes. Yeah. I heard having a baby is easy, Mom. They shouldn't call it. And so that'd be a fun one. I know. Yay! I've helped educate math teachers. I'm sorry that she hates having a day off. Who hates Labor Day? Math teachers. I don't need you correcting me with facts. That has nothing to do. So I have a unit coming up in January that we have to do, which normally every kid hates, but my talkie kids seem to hate it more than others, which I find ironic. I figured it's the one unit that my kids who love to talk would enjoy. You know what unit it's going to be? Speech unit. And so when we get to the speech unit, yeah, trust me, every kid hates it. I'm fully aware. Even those of you who are virtual, we're going to put you on the big screen and make it all kinds of awkward. It's going to be great. Don't you worry about it. And so with that one, my talkie kids are always like, Mr. Broviak, I hate giving speeches. I'm like, why? You talk all the time. The kids are going to be staring at me. I'm like, they're staring at you now. Like, it's a different stare. I don't know. But apparently it's the same idea that if you like talking, you should like a speech unit, but apparently that's not the way it works. Here's a story for you. So driving to the grocery store one day, and I pull up behind a car at a stoplight, and I can look in front of me, and the car up there looks like the whole back end was punched by the Incredible Hulk. Like he'd been like, oh, car, and it's like just pushed it down the road. And so I pull up behind it. I'm like, how is that car driving? That is incredible. As I'm sitting there looking at it, I get closer and I get closer, and on the bumper that is all smashed and rippled, there's one of these drive carefully stickers. And I'm like, well, that's kind of ironic because it has a smashed back end and it says drive carefully. So obviously someone didn't drive carefully. This would be great for my irony unit. I'm like, you know what I should do? Take a picture of it. So I pull out my phone and I'm at the stoplight and I'm doing like a little zoomy in thing trying to get it when the light changes and the car takes off. I hadn't gotten my picture yet. So I was like, oh, no, you don't. But I take off after the car. And I'm holding my phone up against the windshield, driving with one hand and squinting while trying to zoom in at the same time when the car hit the brakes. And I went, my phone went bang against the window and then came back. And then they took off again. And then I took off after them. And then I realized if I ran into the back of this car while trying to take a picture of it to teach irony, it would be teaching like double irony of me smashing it, so I don't have the picture. Use your imagination as opposed to me smashing into the back of a car. But I tried, but I was not willing to sacrifice my own vehicle. I did sacrifice my phone when it hit the window, though. Yes. It was. It tossed out the window. You guys know what a phobia is? So if we find out that the president of an airline has a phobia, what would be ironic? Nicely done. If the president of an airline has a phobia of heights, then that would qualify as ironic. So we had a teacher here at school named Miss Music. She's now over at Riverside. And so what would you assume she teaches? And then, of course, being irony, we know it was definitely not music. She was a science teacher, which is like math, but worse. And so she was a science teacher. And so I used to harass her all the time because I was like, your name is music, but you don't teach music. You teach the whole science thing. Then we had a talent show, which is where that picture comes from. We had a talent show at one point back before we had Corona. And we tried to get her to join us for a talent show, but she refused. She said there was one thing she was really bad at: singing. And so again, I pointed out the irony of her name. Also the fact that apparently science teachers don't have a sense of humor because she did not find my antics amusing whatsoever when I would harass her. And then every time we got to irony, I would teach about her. And she was like, the kids in your classes are making fun of me again. And I'm like, change your name. Look, I heart kids sticker because I have a story to go along with that one too. Because again, coming home from the grocery store and I pulled up next to a car that had one of these things that says I heart my kids. And so I was curious, being a teacher, I'm like, I also heart children. I'm like, who else would heart children with me? And I come up next to a car and I can see two kids in back seat, and two kids in back seat have like their little faces pressed against the window, like little kids in a zoo, you know, where you keep children. And it threw me off when I first saw them. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. So I crept forward a little bit more and I could see the parents in the front seat, both parents smoking cigarettes, and just waves of smoke rolling into the back of the car. And the little kids were pawing at the window trying to get to air. And they're like, meow, 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 as they were pawing at it. I'm like, oh, you have a thing that says, I love my kids, but you're in the process of killing your children. So again, my thought is, perfect photo opportunity for my class. So again, I get out phone. And I'm like, well, this would be perfect. I'm not like behind them this time. They're next to me, so I should be safe. I'm not going to run into them. So I get out phone and I'm doing a little zoomy thing like that. I'm trying to get my car lined up so I can get a picture of that and get a picture of the kids in the back seat. And I'm doing like a little zoomy in thing, and I can see I get like perfect in like a little kid's faces staring right at me. When I can see between the kids' faces, there's something behind it. And I'm like, what am I? So I look up. It was the dad who was turning and looking at me. Apparently, it's creepy if you take pictures of other people's children. Who knew? Because he looked like he wanted to kill me. And so then all of a sudden the mom turned to look at me too. And then I kind of went, and I just took off. So again, use your imagination on that one. But that guy did not look happy with me whatsoever. I did not know you're not supposed to take pictures of other people's children at stoplights. It seemed like a perfectly normal thing to do. Right? If I had planned out my creepiness, I would have, but they caught me off guard. It kind of threw me off and scared me. was a really scary man. Andrew?
It's hilarious.
We all need help. So another story for you. Aside from weirding people out at stoplights, I play in a basketball league on Sundays, and I had a guy who'd never played before, who was like a friend of a friend, and he had a giant NBA tattoo going like all down one of his arms. And so naturally, my thought being about him would be, he knows what he's doing. So we're all trying to get him on our team. We're like, oh, this guy must know what he's doing. We get a chance for him to see him play. Then, of course, being an irony unit, what did I discover? He was awful. It was like he was trying to build a house out there with all the bricks he was throwing. It was just like bang, 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 bang. And he would do the thing where you try to do a layup and you put your hand behind your head. It was like, dang, and go off the backboard. I'm like, oh, dude, boo-boo, you're not doing that right. And so, again, I thought about asking him for a picture. But one, again, that seems creepy to take a picture with a random man at basketball. And then two, to explain, because you're awful at basketball and I want a picture of your tattoo. So again, I just found random picture of tattoo. That was not his actual arm. Jay. You don't shake. Mina. Not very good. Good enough to recognize when someone's building a house out there, but I'm not bringing it either. I like to throw elbows in the paint. So now let's go with showing you some visual irony and seeing if you can figure out things from here. So what is it fire trucks are supposed to do? And what's the problem with this fire truck? So there's your, hopefully we're slowly learning how this irony thing works. Okay. So now I have a picture from, excuse me, sorry, this was a fireworks display I found. And so the fireworks display was called American Freedom, but where do they make the fireworks? So given, yes, we make fireworks in China, but the fact you call it American Freedom, and then you say made in China right there on the box, it does make it look like you have a box of freedom that comes from China. What? This was at a McDonald's, where they had a thing where if you work at McDonald's and then you could get money to go to college, and they had these college scholarships you could get, and of course scholarships implying that you have some level of intelligence. The issue being they did not spell scholarships correctly. They spelled it as scholarships. So apparently the people who made the sign needed a scholarship to figure out how to make it. Taking my daughters out to eat, and we found these crayons they were handing out. Name of the crown company is, and where do they make them? So again, the fact that they're an American crayon company and yet made in Mexico. Let's go with. I found a lot of these, and this one was not my actual dog, but training video to help your dog not chew things up. And of course, what does the dog do? There you go. There you go. I found out the same thing, the no chew deterrent, and of course, what the dog does? Chews on it. I have scissors if you want them, by the way. So, gift for nephew when he was baby. How old was nephew turning? Nicely done. And it turns out the bottom part was you had to be, it was only aimed at kids 3 years old and older. So I'm like, oh, you got a gift for a thing that you can't even use. This was a protest against people coming into America who don't speak our language, which yay for protesting. But what's our issue with this particular one? Correct. It should be O-U-R for our as opposed to R. So again, just misspelling protest sign, not ironic. But when you're protesting, don't come into our country because you can't speak our language, and then you can't speak our language, then that's where the whole irony thing comes in. Jay? Because when you have trouble speaking a language, apparently you just commit all the way, and maybe the dash will help distract you from their random use of wrong words. So, found mango juice. Mango juice says mangoes are a natural source of vitamin A. mango juice. So if we look at the back side of it, when it gets to ingredients, what would you expect?
Vitamin D.
So you get to it, then you go up to vitamin A, and there was 0%. So a little on the ironic side that it says mangoes, source of vitamin A, mango juice, no vitamin A. So the process here being their slogan, smile has arrived, but apparently had not told. Company called Sliding Door Company. And there you go. Again, their whole company is about giving sliding doors, and you get to the company, but the way to get in is it has full doors. Thought that was ironic. Burger sauce. Exactly. Burger, but that's not a burger. I'm not sure what, I don't know if it's supposed to make it taste like a burger, or you put it on a burger, whatever it was. I thought it was rather ironic that you made a burger sauce that doesn't belong to it. It looks like I'm. Give cyclists space.
It's in the bike lane.
And the fact that they put it in the bike lane, that's where irony comes in. Again, if you put it to there or put it to there, not ironic. But the fact that, or even if the sign had said anything else, then you'd have been fine. But the fact that you said give cyclists space and then put it in their way, that's where the irony comes in. The word illiterate, you guys know what that means? It means you cannot read or write if you are illiterate. The spelling test for a kid, he spells every word wrong except for the word that means you cannot spell. So the only word he spells correctly is the word that means you cannot spell. Again, I feel the same way. Maybe it was extra credit. Or self-help book section. Do you not like books? Or you don't like helping yourself? You're catching me off guard there, Brady. But on this one, the idea being is that it's for self-help, but you have to get help to be able to help yourself. Of architecture and planning, but the C is over here. But what makes it ironic?
Very good planning.
It wasn't planned well.
There you go, because it's a school for planning things out ahead of time, but apparently they did not plan things out ahead of time. I'm guessing that one was probably done on purpose.
Is the C on the wall?
Uh-huh.
No.
And then, what would you expect them to sell?
Not new.
And that's the one thing they don't sell. No, but I should have. Face palms, a good one to go to.
There's no T. There's no T.
There you go. The regret knowing, and of course, again, misspelling a tattoo, not ironic. But when your tattoo says to have no regrets about your choices, and then you immediately have a regret about your choice, then it becomes.
Oh, I didn't realize I thought it was ugly.
Not tattoo shaming. On this one, again, you're not tattoo shaming their inability to draw a UPS
Oh
truck.
my gosh, there's no H.
There you go. The fact that they misspelled school, which could be fine, except that you're talking about how you're too cool for school, and then realize apparently you still needed more school.
Why is there a school bus?
What? I do. Yeah. You can, but it's not easy and takes work. I think this is a fake one, but the whole.
That one's ugly too.
You are full of tattoo shame. And so again, misspelling it does not make it ironic. Why is it ironic?
How much gone?
Planned. They did not. So they could have planned ahead. They did not. Don't let the past make your decisions for today.
Oh my gosh.
Wrong
Wrong four.
Wrong 4.
And spelled decision wrong.
And
There should be an E after.
it's also the wrong your.
Yeah.
That's Stories from like letters.
And again, just misspelling it doesn't make it ironic. But the fact that their whole tattoo says, don't let your mistakes haunt your future, and yet they have mistakes haunting your future.
Right? Why would you put a tattoo like?
Wow, you guys are full of tattoo shade.
Because they're ugly.
Back warning, do not compare it.
Why would you not put a?
I don't know why.
I put my phone in the cup holder and I just hold my drink.
You guys know what plagiarism is?
Yeah.
Which is
Like where you
Copy
copy someone's
it.
writing
There
what you're
copying someone else. And then so it says, your paper on the growing problem of plagiarism in society is eye-opening. And especially since this is the third time I've seen it. So he wrote a paper about don't copy other people's papers, but where did he get the paper?
From property.
Copying someone else. There you go.
No.
So now I have two poems we're going to take a look at, and then we get to wrap up irony to see how well you understand it. The first one is about a kid getting beat up at school. I've taken off the last stanza because that gives away the irony. So we'll see what you're expecting to have happen, and we'll figure out what does happen. It says, Pinky Barbs. When recess starts, I feel afraid. There's this kid in second grade. I hear he sat on Tom O'Connor. If he sits on me, then I'm a goner. He looks for kids to squish and crunch. He said he'd find me after lunch. They say he likes to pulverize. Wish he'd pick on kids his size. Of course, there are no kids that big. I'll bet he snaps me like a twig. Oh no, he's coming over here. I think I'm sick. I think I'm sick. He sees me now. He's almost here. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Uh-oh, he's standing next to me. Should I even try to flee? I better pray. What did you say? So what are we expecting the kid to do?
Squash on him.
We're done?
Like friends.
You want to play? Gee, okay. I think he wants to be my friend. Too bad recess has to end. So there's your irony, the fact that you set up thinking one way and then switches. All right. My last one for Halloween. 5 batty bats were hanging neath the moon. Quiet, said the first. The witch is coming soon. She's green, said the second, with a purple pointy nose. Black boots, said the third, cover up her ugly toes. Her broom, said the fourth, can scratch you, that I know. I'm scared, said the fifth. I think we better go. 5 batty bats escaped into the night. So who's afraid of who? And the last line is, dear me, said the witch. That's a scary sight.
Gonna come up with like stuff or something.
Yes. It's just random pictures I put up there. That's why I don't teach math.
The lady's gonna stuff the bath.
Goodness gracious. Another witch. So now, story we have coming up this week, we're going to be taking a look at two, Black Cat and Charles. Both of them are going to be dealing with irony. And then thing coming up for quiz, can you figure out irony in stories? And then, can you figure out rising action and stuff like that? I have a story I'm going to be handing out to the kids here. I'll be handing them out to you guys tomorrow. Those of you who are grade children, you'll have to print your own copy called Black Cat, which can be found on Canvas or on the remind I send up tonight. Now, let me hand out things to you. Those of you who are red children, make sure you don't lose it. You're going to want it.
What is your red child? I'm a red child.
What friend?
Well,
You went to library. What were friends? I just like
It is the Raven guy. All right. All right. Bye, home children. We're going to leave now. You want to go stand over here and face the wall?